victorious. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. Welcome to the cast desk for MAD Lions versus SK Gaming, a best of 5, do or die. My name's Quickshot. I'm joined by Ender and Dagda for the cast. And to set the scene just a little bit, MAD Lions come into this match, I think, a little bit favored, but they have not won a best of 5 in Europe in 544 days. The last time they did was the 2021 Summer Finals, where they picked up the title.
Long time ago for them, to be sure. For SK as well, both these teams a lot to prove on the line. I think SK for a long time in Europe now, it's been the new guard, right? G2, MAD Lions, Rogue last year in the top 3. SK have a chance to try and break into that top 3 here today.
And they do feel a little bit like the odd ones out with the one to prove, right? The only team in this playoffs that doesn't have a title underneath their belt. This is where SK need to step up and be counted for.
And I mean, for SK Gaming, over 700 days since they made playoffs, over 2,800 days since they've made top 4. Let's find out what happens in the draft. As we jump into game number 1, Dagda, I turn to you and say, what are your expectations and where should we focus for the picks and bans?
I mean, it has to be the AD carrying jungle roles, right? Especially when you look against as MAD Lions. They haven't played Caitlyn yet, and they've consistently been banning it, so I expect that one to stay there. And as well, my big question mark is around this Elise pick. We haven't seen Elyoya play it. Against G2, they perma-banned it in that series, but they did let it slip through against Astralis, and I want to see if they give that same respect to Markoon, where they're willing to just constantly ban this Elise.
The thing is, on this patch, I feel like blue side teams should not be banning Elise. That's something that you should be able to show and get a respect ban out from the other side. So we'll see if SK end up removing that or leaving things like the Sejuani up and available. But with MAD Lions' idea of taking away top laners here, bot lane is wide open and some signature picks from Relevant are gone.
Now the question is, does Elyoya lock in that Elise? The reason I go back to it, he only has 1 professional game in his entire career on the champion. Maokai has been removed, Ashe taken away by SK Gaming. So the Caitlyn question is still up. The Lucian Nami is still available as well. And it will be the Kassadin removed from MAD Lions as their final ban.
It's really interesting to see MAD Lions putting this amount of pressure onto top side though, because one of the cool things we saw for SK against Vitality was a shift from focusing on bot side to Irrelevant, to trying to help him out, and kind of letting Exakick and DOS just solo win the lanes themselves. So I'm curious to see if that is a similar plan here for SK, especially if they get their hands on something like the Caitlyn on the next rotation. But we'll have to see, because SK, it looks like they're kind of stumped a little bit here as well as exactly what's going to happen.
Right, like SK are like, okay, we have to ban away bot laners because the Lucian Nami's looked really good in the hands of Hylissang and Carzzy. Ashe is not a pick you want to risk giving over to the other side as well. I just think MAD Lions, this approach is so unique. No other team here in Europe is doing this with a heavy focus on top lane and mid in this first rotation. Elyoya, he proves he's got the Elise.
And the thing is now, yes, you can go for the Caitlyn in the bot side if you want to, but because you've got that pressure in the jungle with the Elise, it makes it very hard to match any sort of ganks that might go down towards that bottom side. So looks like we might get Exakick pivoting into the Varus, which has been so damn good in that bot side, having that flexibility with both the poke, if you want to go for something like the Jayce, and that on-hit build.
I was gonna say, MAD Lions debuted a couple of poke-heavy drafts in their series versus Astralis, which is a new look for them compared to the best of ones, but SK are taking a very similar approach, expecting that Jayce to move towards the mid lane. Now, unfortunately, out of the jungle, you don't have the Maokai to supplement that poke, but I think Sejuani is a very natural follow-through here on 3.
And that's the thing, though, is that if you end up taking that Sejuani, right, but you can go AD carry support here, and then you end up having the problem of, okay, well, what do we try and pair for DOS here? They're already taking the Karma away, so you're not going to have that heavy push lane. So maybe we do end up seeing a fallback into one of these more AD carry focused supports, almost like the Caitlyn, or maybe Varus is going into that role instead.
Oh, they actually go for the Gragas now. This is interesting. I think this is a solution to these early top lane bans, right? Because you already see Jax and Sion banned away. normally SK would expect those bans to come in the second rotation, right? But instead, they have to go for the Gragas here. Otherwise, that's 4 potential top lane bans against them.
The problem is, though, we've already seen that Markoon has struggled when he gets a lot of bans, right? That's when he ended up bringing out that Amumu. Didn't look so hot. So I'm curious if you continue just to focus the jungle pool here by Mad Lions, you just make a Markoon uncomfortable, and that's how you can get this big advantage for Elyoya in that matchup that feels so crucial to this series.
And similarly, when you look at the Mad Lions draft already, Hylissang throughout the course of this year has been one of the most mobile and active supports in roaming, in joining up with Elyoya. But with this Sivir Karma, maybe a little bit more pinned in lane. In phase 2 of the draft, Azir has already been banned and will be followed up by Nautilus as well, making that bottom lane just a little bit more difficult for Exakick and DOS.
Yeah, I think the whole idea here for Mad Lions is going to be to play through bot side, maybe look for an early turret dive with the Elise. I think Gragas is a good solution from SK to try and avoid early top lane dives. Again, very strong wave clear with the Q, pretty slippery under tower with the CC as well. So not the easiest champion to try and punish under there. And when our expectations coming into the series were already, it's going to be a bot lane focus. The second the Elise comes through, you know they're going to be playing around Carzzy and Hilly.
Yeah, the big thing though is that when you have Sivir here, there is the opportunity to just wave clear once you get a couple of levels into you and actually unlock Hilly to go for dives elsewhere in the map. So I like that flexibility from Mad Lions, but I definitely think if you can get that push with the Karma, push the Varus underneath the tower, you can look for those opportunities. Jungle still wide open.
Yeah, that's wild that Sejuani is still an answer. Now, if Markoon were to go Sejuani, it would just be sort of trying to match Elyoya wherever he goes on the map, but you're kind of locked into that idea anyways when playing against a champion as strong as the Elise. But Mad Lions do leave flexibility open with this Karma. That is definitely not locked in
I was about
anywhere.
to say, I just wanted to say, Gragas could be going jungle, AP jungler with your AD mid, so it looks like that's what they're going to try and flip up here. So Gragas has started to creep a little bit back in, especially as we moved over to some of the later patches, but still quite a strong jungler, decent clear, and if you're going for any of these dives, he has a bunch of CC and knockaway that can cause some issues.
Taking a look at that Gragas pick, Irrelevant has 0 professional games all time on the champion, so naturally does lean towards Markoon. 6 games played, 4 of them were victories, and into the Gnar, then Irrelevant will be running. Chasy has now locked in that Cassante, and we're waiting to see the final pick here from the Mad Lions. What does Nisqy anticipate throughout the course of the year? He's got a number of those control mages under his belt, the Victor, Azir, but he's also got those playmakers in the Sylas as well as the Akali. This time around, we'll be locking in the Zoe for the second time.
Yeah, I'm looking towards DOS though. This feels like a really good Renata angle. You have a ton of engage with the Gragas, the Gnar, very short range composition on Mad Lions side. You got good push as well that can try and help out a certain extent against what Karma's going to be able to opt into. And overall, you might take a little bit of a hit in the lane, but certainly I feel like just having that big ultimate do a world of work for you here as SK.
Yeah, I think it's always walking into a pretty tough lane towards the bottom side of the map, but Soraka is a good answer here. Again, the silence field into the snare off of the Varus ulti there too is really, really nice. And I also think the healing, after you see the Zoe come in on the other side, is really powerful for the sustained fights, but also to save someone that's getting picked off by a bubble, because right now Mad Lions do have a couple of really nice pick tools with the bubble and the cocoon, and the ability to gap close on you super fast. As soon as turrets fall, the Karma plus the Sivir can run you down if you overextend.
And it's going to be really difficult for Mad Lions to make you fall underneath the tower now as well. A silent field with the Elise is not a good time for her because so much for Kit revolves around being able to drop aggro with the repel. So overall, I really like what SK are bringing to the table. Great range, good team fight, and it feels like Mad Lions need to get the ball rolling early if they want to have a hope here.
In terms of the draft, a little bit different to what our anticipations were game 1 in this best of 5. Some pressure there on Elyoya. How much of a lead, how much pressure do you feel they are under to generate that lead early on?
I definitely think when you're looking at the Elise, she's going to fall off. You want to try and play through a strong mid jungle, I feel like, with the sleepy trouble bubbles and try and set up there. At least you've got the Sivir to fall back on, but very little engage.
The most important thing for Mad Lions is that you can control the river, control the vision from the enemy team, because you're always trying to find damage into the enemy jungle when SK are running in. So it's important the mid jungle do come out looking strong.
Now for SK, the early game has been a challenge for them throughout the course of the group stage. Those best ofs, can they stand up to the Mad Lions in game 1? Welcome to Summoner's Rift as Mad Lions.
Oh, it's a 5v5, Trevor!
5v5 on the cards. DOS will step forward. A little bit of damage traded for now. Exakick cuts off from the rest of the team, and nobody's rooted just yet. The Sleepy Trouble bubble held DOS in place, but not enough to hold him for the kill.
I love the Mad Lions are going for this. Against Astralis, that Sleepy Trouble bubble set themselves up for 2 kills, and they got to run away with the game, but not able to do it here against SK. But nice attempt, and certainly sets up the vision that they need to try and get some push against Exakick and DOS.
Look, all I'm saying is, how do we ever expect to beat an LPL team if we don't go for the all-in 5v5 in the bot lane at level 1? I want to see some blood.
As an expert, it's going to be really hard for it to beat an LPL team. Well.
Ultimately, nothing comes from that, but I do think the level ups of those first skill points may have a small impact. Take a look at these jugglers now. Markoon starting on the top half of his map, whereas Elyoya starting on the bottom. We'll be tracking what sort of impact Elyoya can have on this Elise. Only his second ever professional game on the champion. And I think as well, when you look at this Carzzy Hylissang lane, they are already positioning to push forward to put Exakick and DOS in the back foot.
Really big. Hilly starting with the sweeper there to deny vision here. They also were able to control, because they pushed back SK right off the rip, they then get free priority. Like, how do you ever hit this wave? It's just not going to happen.
And especially with the fact that he was burned on DOS as well, now the pressure is on, where if Elyoya was going for some sort of level 2 or quick level 3 gank into the bottom side, you have to play so much safer because you don't have access to that summoner spell. So DOS already taking a good bit of the brunt of damage, and he's not going to be in the best of spots here.
I've also got to point out Markoon's setup this game. So he goes for Red Smite. He also has Dark Harvest. That's wild. This is a Gragas that is trying to absolutely blow you up. Sudden impact there as well. Treasure Hunter 2 to try and get some early gold, so not too surprising on that front. But I really like the idea when you have a poke comp like this. I think Electrocute would give you a little bit more damage early on, and you're pretty much always going to get the burst off. But when you're playing for an ult on top of Varus Q and Jayce Q, you could potentially proc that and just blow someone out of the water.
I really want to see them pull off that combo, but it does mean they need to have the vision setup. They need to ensure that they are playing on the front foot and not being pushed backwards, not being in a deficit like we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Top lane, mid lane, and bot all pushing towards SK, and Elyoya is already invading, stepping into Markoon's jungle. There's a potential threat here for Irrelevant, but the wave is not quite enough just yet.
Elyoya should know Markoon's on the way up, but hasn't actually started this yet. So going to see if he can try and make a play with Nisqy having pushing mid to go for a dive top. But the timing in this is not great, and Markoon's already spotted us.
Take a look at this. 2v2 for now. Nisqy will be able to arrive. Flashes away from the cocoon. The venomous bite comes out. Elyoya is conceding for first blood. Nisqy arrives too late for the party, and Sertuss teleports in just to close it out.
Perfect there for Markoon. Seeing Elyoya on the way, getting there to interrupt the dive as well. The flash E, absolutely perfect to shut him down.
And Irrelevant outplaying that, buying time.
Oh yeah.
Using the flash to avoid the cocoon was crucial. If he was caught by that, the burst damage was simply too high. DOS and Exakick this time round, stepping all the way forward. DOS is low, below 200. Carzzy is silenced, forced to flash, but the last auto attack will not be enough to pick up the kill. And Exakick now running for his life. Elyoya's got the flash available to him, will be spotted by the ward, and DOS and Exakick get away.
Yeah, 2 flashes and a cleanse. No way Elyoya can shut that one down. A bloodbath down in the bot side, and no one goes down. I do quickly want to note, though, that Nisqy was able to pick up the teleport that Sertuss used to get into top lane, so he doesn't have to use his burn it to come back to lane.
I mean, we're going to see this dive here, though. Really good stuff. Markoon with the flash body slam sets up perfectly. Irrelevant dodging that CC was unheard of. And as you say, Sertuss moving back up to the top side. This means now Elyoya very far behind. Look at the CS levels. Level 3 to level 4 on Markoon. Elise needs to get the ball rolling here.
Yeah, look at this. Everyone's coming to top lane. This teleport absolutely wacky from Nisqy. No flash on Irrelevant. Elyoya is here, and the ward's going to spot him a little bit too late.
Waiting for the CC, Cocoon, and Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Will they connect? That's at least the poison thrown out. Elyoya flashes for it, connects. Irrelevant is being chunked down, and there should be an easy kill secured by the Mad Lions. A heavy focus in the top lane, and Ender. I will remind you that while a lot of the games have been defined by the bottom lane, by how those duos play out, the very last game that SK played was focused around top lane, was focused around repeatedly ganking. We see Mad Lions do the same thing now.
That could definitely be a possibility. For Mad Lions at the same time, like, this is just MVP material Nisqy. Like, picks up a TP, comes up with this idea to TP into top and then back to mid after getting the kill. That is absolutely huge, but for now, SK have the chance to dive.
I think they need the kills to go into Nisqy, though. Nisqy's the only one that can really answer for a lot of the poke that's coming out from SK, and the fact that SK are focusing on bot side, getting these leads where those long-range damage dealers are, is going to prove very troublesome for Mad Lions if this continues.
There's no flash for Carzzy. He's under some threat, tagged out by that piercing arrow, and that silence field does so much. It's so frustrating to play into. Markoon's going to be able to pick up those Krugs and back away. Not looking for the dive. That wave clear is simply too great for the Mad Lions.
The science field is also super annoying for Sivir, trying to like time the spell shield as well. Once level 6 comes around, hold that thought.
It's a lot of damage, and as he's just solo kill.
That was sick from Chasy. He ends up interrupting the jump away from Irrelevant with the CC, and then sets up for the all-out. That was so well played by Chasy.
Oh no, I don't know if he'd had these items before he died, but the Merc Treads rush on Irrelevant versus Elise, and knowing that Zoe's coming to the top side too, not helping him at all there, as Markoon is much healthier than Elyoya, but in the middle of two players, it's really tough for him to fight it out. Looked like Sertuss was going to roam towards the top side though, so Elyoya backs up.
This is exactly what we wanted to see from the Mad Lions.
Oh, that's another solo kill!
Burnt. Nisqy picks up the solo. Didn't quite see exactly how that played out, but obviously full combo and managing to make it work. Advantage here, Mad Lions.
I mean, SK solo laners mod check. What is going on right here? Is Hilly under a little bit of trouble?
Halo Varus is going to force away the flash, and Dawson Exakick continuing to bounce back. Big advantages in terms of just the champion kits, using it to their full advantage.
And they need to, especially when both solo lanes for SK have already just gone by the wind. This was so well played by Nisqy. Has Unsealed Spellbook, takes the Ignite, catches Sertuss as he's trying to roam up to stop another potential play on the top side and help out his jungler, but nice guy Sertuss ends up getting punished for it.
That's actually so crazy, because you're exactly right. Markoon's calling, I need help in order to get my Krugs, or I'm going to have nothing I can actually farm on the map. And sort of slight positioning mistake right there. Not ready for it. Oh, Nisqy, I mean, just continuing to land these sleeps up against Sertuss. And this is what I'm talking about, though. As Nisqy and Elyoya get ahead and get onto the map, if they can get vision like sort of shallow in SK's jungle, the second SK ever try to contest around an objective or play for a scuttle crab, like, they're walking into death.
Carzzy may be under threat as he's going to dodge away from that body slam and just blown up. Will be easily taken
on the
out
way
by the members of SK. Second kill secured, but Mad Lions want to answer. Dawson Exakick are very, very low, but Sertuss has been able to arrive. Nisqy's gonna land that sleepy, trouble, bubble, paddle storm! Gonna be enough for the kill as Exakick escapes with less than 10 HP. Elyoya's forced back, and SK escaped by the skin of their teeth.
Oh, that was insane. Nisqy is trying to do so many cool things on the Zoe. Had the Proto Belt picked up from the W, tried to get in range with the ult, and then extend it with that Proto Belt. Doesn't end up working. Just barely 2 players surviving on nothing.
The thing about this game and the tempo of it, we expected that from the Mad Lions. What I like to see from SK Gaming is they've been able to outplay some of those dives, some of those engages, and crucially for me, Markoon is also setting up proactive plays. So when we talk about the compositions and we anticipate that we wanted Mad Lions to have that lead early on, SK are doing fairly well in the first 10 minutes as they pick up the dragon as well.
They may go for more on the bot side though. Mad starting to move in. Markoon here to spot it though.
Ooh, gonna be in a little bit of trouble. Hylissang level 5, not gonna be able to find the route. All of a sudden, Doss was in that middle lane with Exakick, and Nisqy now starting to back away. He's stuck around this lane for a significant amount of time.
I think Nisqy might have missed lethal right there. You see he has the flash picked up. He could have used that to extend the range, get the Q onto Sertuss. Also, the damage of the W may have been enough, but I think he might have called it off seeing Markoon stepping out of the brush, because it's very likely he could have just been one-shot too by the Gragas.
Still though, Markoon is doing a great job of trying to match a lot of these plays, and I think that's why we're seeing SK managing to keep somewhat in touching distance. It is a 1,000 gold lead for Mad Lions, but the fact he's been able to keep up with Elyoya is really good. Now have to see, as everyone from SK starts to move up towards this Rift Herald, whether we'll have a numbers advantage for them, but at the moment, You got the Jayce moving to bot side, MAD Lions moving their entire squad.
Very nice map movement from MAD Lions too, because Carzzy, after dying to the bot lane gank, went mid to pick up the wave while the rest of MAD Lions were moving down to go for that fight. So now they have free Herald priority. Markoon can't really do much of anything against it, so Irrelevant just going to base and run straight back to the top lane. But with only 3 plates on top lane, it could be trouble.
It's another neutral objective going the way of MAD Lions. The thing is, if you're a fan of SK Gaming, I don't think anyone's nervous. When you take a look at their last few games in week 5, their gold deficit on average is -1,000. The KD at 14 was significantly behind, and they spent more than 40% of their game time in a major
Wrong way, buddy.
deficit. SK Gaming have demonstrated and proven they can come from behind. I have no idea how and why that Herald was dropped instantaneously, but you mentioned the 3 plates in the top lane, MAD Lions making a play to secure it.
It's like a giant alarm though. DOS immediately moves up and goes, well, clearly they're making a play up here.
But it doesn't even matter, right? They get the plates. There are 2 players in the bot lane. MAD Lions just played the entire map, right? At the same time they took Herald, they were already trying to run down onto the bottom side of the map. You could see them with Hylissang. It was not actually sticking around on that objective because they knew SK weren't comfortable stepping in to the fog of war. With the Herald going down immediately, Elyoya also got his sweeper back online, so he ran all the way through SK's red side jungle to make sure he had a good pathway for a potential dive.
I mean, the amount of movement throughout the course of these first 12 minutes is impressive. Dagda, does this chaos end up benefiting MAD Lions? They've got the gold lead, they've got the objective lead. It feels to me like they are dictating the tempo of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much better for MAD Lions. We already said they need to get off to a decent start, and one of the biggest gripes that I've had with MAD Lions is when they tend to Nisqy. When they tend to play their mid games, it can be a bit A-rammy, where they're not really playing side lanes, but this is a really good example of what MAD Lions are capable of, and Exakick will be forced to back away. A lot of this coming from Hilly, just being able to roam so effectively now that the laning phase has gone down.
And I mean, when you look at the solo laners for MAD Lions, Chasy has already got himself a near 20 CS advantage, similar for Nisqy. It's 1,100 gold up, 600 gold up. I think Nisqy's Zoe is absolutely having an impact, continually applying pressure, continually looking to roam. And Elyoya is now once again looking to hunt Irrelevant. This tower is very low. DOS and Exakick are making their way up, so SK will have reinforcements.
Gotta call that one off. People are on the way, but they don't have vision of it immediately. Still, I think MAD Lions should be aware there's no one hitting wave in mid. Exakick and DOS could be on the move.
Again, though, we're seeing SK commit way too many resources than they need to this top side. They think the MAD Lions are going to make a play, but now you get push on bot, you get shoved in mid. You can even have Elyoya and Carzzy start to lean down towards this bot side to help out Nisqy and potentially put pressure onto Sertuss.
Oh man, dude's just zoned away from the tower while Hylissang's on the roam down. Hylissang leading the rest of the team here too, so Sertuss just gonna have to run away. He will be rooted. Oh no, does actually have the movement speed to escape from that tier 2 boots on him, gets him just out of range.
Acceleration Gate doing some work too, but more importantly, more plate gold secured. This is a 2,000 gold lead at 13 minutes. Blue buff was at least started, but because of the mid lane pressure, MAD Lions will concede back away and try to defend as best they can. And all of a sudden, SK again, they have to defend every single lane at every single minute of the game.
Yeah, one thing that does give MAD Lions an advantage here too in terms of their movement is Hylissang has been so proactive, moving towards side, protecting Nisqy, making sure nothing can happen there. And I think, A, that's Hylissang as a player, but also the Karma a little bit more self-sufficient than the Soraka, perhaps, right? You have the speed up to get on out of there. DOS can't really walk through the river by himself without a lot of support behind him.
And I love how MAD Lions are now playing for this dragon. They shove in mid, they're going to get their vision down, and they're well aware that Irrelevant has TP, so they can't just start it up and hope that they can win out the fight because Chasy won't be able to join. So getting advantages across their lanes, usually they're using the push they have, and now with Chasy able to roam down because he got that push on top, they can now start up the dragon as a team.
I mean, it's perfect getting the first 2 Drakes of the game here for MAD Lions, because let's not forget SK, one important caveat in a lot of their comebacks was that they were able to sneak away an early dragon or 2 in those games, delay the potential soul or elder point by 5-10 minutes in those situations, and that was when they were playing with really heavy scaling compositions. MAD Lions in this game, because they haven't let that slip, they've been completely in charge of objectives with the Rift Herald too, and these turrets are just slowly progressing the game, so SK do feel like they have to group up, they have to try and force things, but that just makes them slip behind even more.
And it's also so hard to play this composition as SK if you don't have that control around objectives, because you want to poke, because you want to be trying to play around the vision you've already established. And Mad Lions are trying to run into you. When Mad Lions have control of the map like this, compositionally, it becomes very difficult to play out your style.
The one thing that does lean in SK's favor right now, the fact they have secured that mid tower will open up a small number of avenues and opportunities into that Mad Lions jungle. The thing that they need to do is use that poke, ensure they can burst down the targets. Because as the game is playing right now, they are always defending. They are always trying to dodge those paddle stars. Nisqy also is going to have a gigantic impact when they start to set up those engages and those standoffs around either dragons or trying to hold off the towers.
Yeah, I mean, you just think about how these two comps work. Like when it comes to finding picks, like Mad Lions have so much more range. Even if the game was on perfectly equal footing, Nisqy's bubbles always have more options to try and find picks. Whereas SK, they're looking at a Varus ult and maybe Markoon coming in on a flank.
Look at this.
Look at that. That's what I'm talking about.
Connects. Exakick is not going to be able to get away for now. It's Carzzy forced to pop. The explosive cast sends him to safety. Nisqy firing off from the
There we go.
Flash over the wall from Exakick. He's going to be using that cleanse as well. Nisqy stays alive, manages to get more damage down onto Sertuss, but it's just a trade of HP bars and summoner spells.
Nisqy playing on an absolute edge right there, over the wall, flashing away, getting the poke damage down. One big Q onto DOS just destroys the entire fight for SK.
Both of these teams are willing to throw everything into these skirmishes, and when you see the utility of the healing, that is making it so much more difficult to kill their opponents.
I think we're definitely seeing a bit of nerves from SK though, right? We've seen them overcommit to these topside plays. You get Markoon, who just messes up that Gragas barrel as well. SK are making these little mistakes that are giving Mad Lions the opportunities into this game, and I think Mad Lions have been one of the best teams in the LEC this split at punishing those mistakes, at finding the advantages through that, and that's why Mad Lions have managed to get a 3,000 gold lead at this stage.
It's just been clinical from the Mad Lions. Now the second Herald spawns on the top side of the map. They're going to be playing there again. Mid lane turret very, very low, and I don't think SK are in a position where they even want to contest around this Herald. You can see them playing towards bot side, but there's not even camps down there for them to try and invade and steal away. Yeah, maybe you can play for a turret, but look at this. Irrelevant is completely isolated on the top side of the map. No one can save him. DOS doesn't even have ultimate.
3 members of the Mad Lions applying pressure. The rest of SK setting up on the bottom lane. Gonna push that one all the way forward. Irrelevant will get chunked out by that paddle stop. Just a couple of autos landing on the tower. So it's vision set up inside that southern quadrant of the jungle. The tower is picked up in the bottom lane, but it will be traded here by the Mad Lions.
Yeah, check it out too, because SK had recalls channeled on Markoon and DOS. They canceled it. Look where they are. They are so far forward. They are going to be here in jungle for a minute at least, unless they go through with these bases. But again, that's 30 wasted seconds if they're not committing and trying to shut this one down. And it looks like they're gone.
And the problem was that Markoon and DOS started those resets because they knew that the Rift Tower was in the back pocket of Elyoya. So they will always loot out on a potential trade, potentially lose an inhibitor if they continue to push onto this tier 2. So really nice timing there for Mad Lions to not only get the objective, but pick up a tower and control of the map again off the back of this.
So gentlemen, it looks to me like SK are setting up to contest the next dragon. They push some vision deep into the jungle. Teleports available for both Sertuss and Irrelevant. We're a minute and 10 seconds away. There's no TP available for Nisqy, but Chasy's is up. So I want to see who's going to get priority in the lanes, who's going to be able to set up in the river. It is still only a 2,000 gold lead as we're approaching 20 minutes.
The main issue, like, look, everyone's got one item except for Chasy with 2. That's absolutely nuts. But Mad Lions, because they have Rift Herald, they can just drop this in mid lane, get free priority running down the lane, then control river. It doesn't matter their wards in their jungle because they're still going to have first prio in mid and first control of river.
Haven't dropped it just yet. That AoE from SK doing a lot of work. The barrel is going to pin Hylissang against the wall, but he's not taken out. Finally, the wish is used by DOS to get the retreat. SK lose the tower. Nobody is killed, but that damage and that range is keeping everyone at bay.
It's because you've got the artillery cannon with Nisqy over the side. He's just constantly taking pop shots at SK, and the Mad Lions now get the tower. They will look for a quick reset onto Hilly and move down over into the river to get the control that Ender was talking about.
Yeah, nothing SK can do. They knew they probably needed to look for a fight before Herald goes down, right? If you can kill a couple of players, then you can get to Drake. In that sense, it's a smart play, but the damage couldn't come through in time to find that pick. The theory is there. Markoon, that ultimate does so much damage, but it just was not enough against everything Mad Lions had.
You can see how close it is for SK working though, right? Markoon, a couple of these barrels have nearly taken members out alongside Exakick. If Mad Lions actually do stick around for too long underneath these towers, that's where the poke from SK can come through. But as long as they're playing this hit and run style, it becomes very, very very difficult to do. It does mean, though, Mad Lions, they do have the dragons, but they really need to try and secure things like Baron to close out this.
Ooh, that's so much damage onto Exakick. He will use the cleanse to escape with his life. And you talk about that poke, you talk about the range from SK. Nobody from Mad Lions is standing grouped up or standing in a traditional sieging position. They are always split off on the side. Nisqy is always away from the squad. So it makes it so much more difficult for SK to actually find the necessary targets.
I think you have an idea, right? Like, once you're put behind as SK, you know the enemy team is going to be grouping up and taking an objective because SK couldn't fight for the dragon. They're trying to spread out there, get experience in the jungle in all 3 different lanes. So in that sense, Exakick was able to get picked off. The problem is, I think that Nisqy, because he's had sort of free entrance into the enemy jungle to try and play with those really thick walls to get the big range on the bubbles, whether it's the mid lane siege or even the bot lane was able to hit Sertuss a couple of times. SK are just constantly under pressure because they have to clear waves, but they also have to maintain control over their own jungle. They can't do both at the same time because they are behind, and that puts them in a really tough position unless they're finding someone with the Chains of Corruption.
And that's why, again, you're kind of seeing this, hey, we'll group up, we'll push mid, and then we can start to lean in to get the vision, as Nisqy and Hylissang are just demonstrating at the moment. Rift Herald, though, will get a charge into the tower. I don't think they're looking to take it, though. That might be a step too far.
Well, let's find out. That Sleepy Trouble bubble making SK step further and further back. Rift Herald will get the charge, drop the tower to 20%. And once again, Mad Lions are showing that they can keep the pressure up, force SK back, that range advantage, keeping them in control. Minion Wave making its way forward, another sleep will connect. Markoon will not be able
There's
to
the jump!
Then Nisqy is dropped! He's taken out by Irrelevant, and all of a sudden, SK, they bought themselves some time.
Perfect. Critical mistake from Nisqy there, getting picked off, but SK also had about a 5-second window before the minion wave ran into the tower where they could try to look for a pick against Nisqy. Nisqy goes for the poke and gets absolutely slammed.
Again, it's Exakick stepping up. Great Chains of Corruption to lock down Nisqy on that play. And now SK can get these waves pushed out, start to establish vision around the Baron, and make sure that Mad Lions can't keep up this constant assault that they've been doing.
And of course, the game will slow down a little bit. It's so much more difficult and so much more risky to push those inner towers. So for Mad Lions, any small misstep, any small mistake can be punished, and SK have demonstrated time and time again that they are able to punish. They are able to bounce back from a deficit. With 3 minutes until the dragon, 3 minutes until the soul for Mad Lions, they cannot concede that one.
Yeah, that would be so brutal for them. Especially like looking at the inventory of Mad Lions, so you got a couple of stopwatches as well. So I do believe Nisqy had it for the last one. Wouldn't have mattered, would have gotten destroyed instantly coming out of that regardless. But it makes that pick potential, right? Where you're unloading all of your big poke cooldowns and Markoon's ult at the same time. One stopwatch could eat that up, and then your fight is gone. Again, I can't stress enough that if one big Q lands against DOS, that's like so much healing that SK would also be losing out on, so his positioning has to be perfect too.
Just able to step away.
Doesn't connect there, Dagda.
Yeah, I'm going to hold on for a sec because it looks like Mad Lions are trying to get in here, but Markoon should be able to step away. I think the big thing about the stopwatches as well is Mad Lions, very short range, very little engage, have to put themselves in awkward positions to make these plays work. So it feels like when you've got the long range Cocoon, the long range Triple Bubble from Nisqy as well, they're the 2 big setups you're actually looking for here. And I think that's why you're seeing these early Zhonya's come through, because you need to have that opportunity to keep yourself safe so you can set up these plays.
And while Mad Lions are taking that bottom inner turret, Irrelevant is pushing the top outer. Something that Dagda, you and I were looking for over the last couple games was SK setting up those cross maps. Another a lot of damage onto DOS, pulled backwards, blast down. It's Hilly that secures the kill. Irrelevant is starting to channel that recall, but with the tower down, with the kill secured, Mad Lions peel towards Baron.
Run immediately over towards Baron right here, because what Mad Lions are going to look for first and foremost is to turn up against SK, right? No Soraka on the opposite side. They can start up this Baron and instantly find a good bubble through the thickness of the wall here. If that's even what they want to do, I really think this is an opportunity to try and get a flash or something before the dragon fight.
Yeah, I think Soul is so important to them. They're just going to take the reset. Instead of trying to risk it, get their vision, make sure SK can play to their compositional strengths, and make sure they can actually get this Soul secured before they worry about the Baron.
And of course, if they put themselves in that Baron pit, the Jayce damage, the Varus damage, so much easier to land, so much riskier. I think, for the Mad Lions composition. DOS also was only a 10-second death timer. The Wish could have been used if they started a fight, but instead, it's the River, it's SK setting up 30 seconds until the Dragon.
I think this is where it gets dangerous, though. The turn from Mad Lions is insane. The TP's coming through.
Well, at what can Chasy do? 5 members of SK inside the River. That is huge damage from the Zoe, and SK are being obliterated and melted and decimated. Mad Lions on the hunt as Sertuss is running for his life. 3 kills secured already.
The perfect flank from Chasy coming flying in, playing off of the bubbles. Mad Lions eviscerate SK. Nisqy's not done yet. Hylissang on the charge. We might see him.
All of a sudden, Irrelevant gets at least 1 back, but it does look like Mad Lions will secure the soul. They will obliterate SK in the team fight, and all of a sudden, Mad Lions continue to apply the pressure.
I mean, look, it's a nice consolation prize, but realistically, that's not going to do much. Mad Lions with the soul, they still have control on the map because everyone in SK had to go back to the base. So look at the vision, it's everywhere there, and Mad Lions continuing to look for these picks as soon as they can.
I mean, such a beautiful teleport flank. SK pushed so hard to control that mid lane, to try to set up for the Dragon, and ultimately, they just grouped up for the burst damage to land. Yeah,
I mean, it's a great bubble here to start things off from Nisqy. Also, Silence Field used super early, so there's nothing there. Carzzy also spell shields the Chains of Corruption, and SK are funneled into Chasy. Like, the flank is right there, and when none of your spells work for SK, there's just nowhere to run.
And Nisqy's been doing such a great job of finding key spells onto Exakick. Every time he steps up with an arrow to try and poke, there's a paddle star that's coming through, there's a bubble that's hitting, and it makes it so difficult for SK to try and do anything in these fights. And now, yes, you've got SK who've established vision back on their side of the jungle and the top side, but you just push mid as Mad Lions. You then get to walk straight through that top side jungle and do whatever the hell you want.
And of course, when there is no setup time, no range, and no time for SK to land that poke, that Sivir value in a close-up, clumped-up 5v5 is gigantic. Mad Lions have got themselves the soul, a 5,000 gold lead, and now they're setting up some vision in and around Baron, potentially pulling SK towards them. Like you said, Ender, using that darkness, using the Sleepy Trouble Bubble and Cocoon to find the pick, and that can unlock the objective.
I was trying to do some quick maths, and I'm pretty sure Mad Lions spent 525 gold on pink wards on their last base. They came out, 3 players had 2, there was another one as well, so all of this SK vision, yeah, they've grouped up, they're getting it now, but that is going to disappear very, very quickly. They have to be able to hold their ground on this, or it's just going to be gone the second the sweepers come back online and these pinks go down.
It's so sick to see Nisqy popping off like this, especially as we talked about it in the opening of the show, that he wanted to show that he was still a carry. Everyone talks about how he's a facilitator, but now it's been twice we've seen this Zoe. He's looked absolutely stellar on it, and again he's shown up to be a mainstay carry for Mad Lions.
Of course, Mad Lions are now trying to hold off SK. 2 members, Hilly as well as Nisqy, pushing out SK from the river. Chasy goes all the way forward, now being backed up by the rest of the Pride. They've got control of the mid lane. They've got control of the jungle. And it's SK trying to find an answer, but they are so far behind. It is incredibly difficult to step into the darkness to get close enough to even challenge Mads.
Also, you have no towers outside your base for SK, and enemy team has multiple speed ups. The Sivir and the Karma can chase you down, so it's very hard for SK to continue playing forward. Now, luckily for them, I don't think Mad Lions are going to overcommit towards this Baron. They could start it up and again look to turn, but because SK are on red side, stealing away the Baron over the wall is always going to be something weighing on Mad Lions' mind. That's not really as viable an option for SK playing around the Drake. So 3 minutes till the Elder, that is going to be lights out.
And that's the thing with the poke, with the CC that you offer.
Here we go.
For
Is the engage coming out? Silence Field will at least prevent the...
Look at Carzzy!
From Chasy, but Carzzy's running into 5 members. He's blown up, obliterated by Irrelevant. Stepping 1 step too far. The Wish from DOS doing so much, but Nisqy will not be able to find the paddle star, and SK still on the retreat, still falling back.
And that's where I was about to say, I don't think Mad Lions need to actually get into the face of SK. Long range from Nisqy, the CC from the Cocoon, look to play for picks, look to play for SK as they step out of their base, but take a step too far, you get a kill onto Carzzy, you buy space for SK, and they can now wait to get some of this gold into their back pockets.
Are they called the Mad Lions or the Patient Lions, though? Because these cats are looking feral, looking for some frags every which way they can. Nisqy had a slight misstep earlier, but this just goes to show what SK can always do to you. The threat is always there.
Oh, so much damage. The thing is, it has been relatively consistent from the Mad Lions. They have looked for the picks. They have used vision to their advantage. They honestly are taking full advantage of Nisqy Zoe because he has almost single-handedly controlled the majority of this rift. Das is continuing to run away for his life. Teleport's being challenged.
The silence!
Equinox is dropped! The silence was huge! And now Chasy caught in between three. Got that ghost available to him. Hylissang stepping forward. Turns his focus onto Exakick. Doesn't have the damage just yet. Pulls him back with the all-out. And Hilly gets the kill in a 2v4. All of a sudden, Carzzy and Elyoya, they blow up Markoon. Turn their attention to Irrelevant. Hilly flashes over the wall. Finds the route. Here comes the Mad Lions. Trying to find another kill. And SK Gaming can do naught to stop them.
Another Cocoon on the other side. Sertuss trying to run, scramble his way back towards the base, has to turn it straight around Mad Lions. What started out as Nisqy getting picked, obliterate SK Gaming.
Chasy popping off, getting onto Exakick, making sure there was no hope for SK in that fight. And once more, Mad Lions are standing tall, Baron in their eyes, at 50 seconds till the Elder. How the hell do you come back into this one?
I don't know. For the Mad Lions, they have found every single objective throughout the course of their 30 minutes. That Baron will be secured. And this all started with Nisqy potentially overstepping. You criticize him for this move.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking for the one shot. Gotta respect that. But Das flashing into the silence field was really nice to guarantee the kill coming in. And then you think, oh, Chasy TP'd in. He's absolutely dead. But all of Mad Lions are on the way. I don't know how, but everyone always forgets about Chasy, and Chasy always delivers.
I think Exakick, though, bit of a misstep. He thought he was safe to walk that direction because Gragas had been hiding down at the bottom. Markoon was trying to zone away Carzzy in that, but because you now don't have Exakick, Sertuss is the only real one left with damage. Irrelevant because he was set behind. Basically just a pretty looking shot.
Well, we're going to find out. The entire kit is thrown out. Hourglass used their buy. Elyoya buys some time. All of a sudden, the damage coming back forward as Carzzy as well as Chasy secure yet another. Sertuss is in the ride and taken down. Double kill for Cassante. All of a sudden, Mad Lions have got 40-second death timers and a 5v3.
I hate it when my entire champion is countered by one old pocket watch. Absolutely ruined. Das is put to sleep underneath the tower. Relevant is going to be able to zone it away, and Das barely survives.
There's nothing that SK can do. All of a sudden, Mad Lions are setting their sights on the Nexus turrets. Irrelevance, Mega Gnar not going to be able to find a target just yet. He's pushed backwards as Chasy and Hilly continue to spam. Nexus turret number 2 is being burned down. Chain of Corruptions by just a couple seconds as Mad Lions may want to pad the stats. Find some more kills. Taking out Irrelevant as Chasy now turns back to the Nexus. Game 1 goes to the Mad Lions.
A fantastic performance from the Mad Lions coming out of this. Immediately putting pressure onto the top side, getting Chasy ahead, getting control of the objectives, and making sure SK never got to play towards the strengths of their comp.
The more impressive thing for me is the consistency with which Mad Lions were on that front foot, were playing forward. They didn't give SK a moment to breathe, a chance to come back, because SK have demonstrated they can do that.
They never deviated, right? This is a comp led by mid and jungle, and from Elyoya's early pathing to continually playing with Nisqy, getting him into the enemy jungle when they were looking for the sieges. The objective control was on point, and it was all because SK Gaming could never leave their side of the map.
And I think the thing was, they didn't fall into the traps we've seen other teams like Vitality fall into against SK, giving up side lane control, giving the opportunity for Relevant to start split push, and slowly but surely SK find these opportunities to get back into the game. They were never ever taking their foot off the gas pedal, and Mad Lions did a beautiful job of closing that one out.
Yeah, Mad Lions never gave up a single Drake in the early game to delay by 5 minutes. That was a very early soul for them and just helped the snowball.
I think crucially as well, in terms of the draft, preventing and removing any of those frontline, heavy engaged tank-style champions having a gigantic impact on this. SK Gaming compositionally needed time, they needed to land the poke, they needed vision, but they never get a chance to set that up.
It was such a wacky draft, going heavy for the top lane, Sejuani making it through entirely, going for the AP Gragas. The one-shots never came in, because again, stopwatch is turbo cringe.
I think it was a bit of a brave move from SK, though. This is a composition we really haven't seen them try it before. They've always fallen back on, we've got Cassiopeia in the mid lane, we've got scaling, we can play for late game fights, we've got a Jax, but this was a very different one. And when they've fallen behind consistently at this stage, I think you change it over.
Well, we're going to have to find out. SK Gaming will have side selection. We'll figure out what their answer is. For now, we're going to head to Vedius at the Telestrator.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now, we saw some pretty crazy stuff in the early game, and I wanted to break down some of the solo kills. But in order to get to the solo kills, we've got to go even earlier and look at the setup. Now, I'm going to be joined with my observers, and we're going to go through some of this cool early game stuff that the Mad Lions did, in particular around the top side of the map, which then led to the solo kill that happened in mid lane as well. So if we could bring up the game, we're going to be very early on, and we're going to actually look at how this dive is set up. So you guys can just roll this one out, because this isn't too complicated. The idea is that Chasy aggressively pushed in the waves early on to set up a wave that they can look to dive on. This is read pretty well by SK as they try to match. As you can see, Markoon comes in from behind the lane to try and mitigate what is happening. And keep your eyes on what Markoon does here. He keeps Elyoya CC'd long enough with the flash E so that they have enough damage to secure him before the repel can come through. But the crucial thing here is that Irrelevant lost his flash. Now, we're going to speed forward. We're going to double time about a minute, about 2 minutes ahead, as our observers are going to quickly zoom through, because what we're going to see very soon is Elyoya immediately path actually back up towards the top side of the map. So keep double timing, observers, and we're going to pause it very quickly here because I want to draw attention to some of the cool stuff that actually happened. Back a little bit, observers, back a little bit, back up, back up, back up, back up. We're going to jump in ahead of the game here a little bit. Okay, so if we can pause it right here, thank you very much, observers. What happened was we actually had Nisqy TP to the tower and then move into lane at the same time as Elyoya pathed from bot side all the way up to top lane to threaten a dive once again onto Irrelevant. Now, why is this important? The whole game plan here is to actually just try and get these early advantages and to shut down Irrelevant as much as possible. So thank you, observers. Let's play this one out and actually see the dive happen, because Irrelevant, there's very little that he can do here. He has no flash. It's a very easy early game play. And Elyoya only level 3 still for the time being. Nisqy committing his TP up towards the top side, guarantees them a kill and sets up Chasy for success. Now, these two early investment plays mean that at this point in time, Irrelevant's going to be behind in experience and behind in gold. And then you'll see as well the TP back into mid so that Nisqy can catch the mid wave too. So everything is going extremely well in terms of the early game. So now let's actually fast forward up towards the point with which Chasy is able to find that solo kill. He has the level advantage. He's going to look to try and get these short skirmishes off and kind of trade back and forth with Irrelevant where he can. Again, look at the wave positioning here. He's forcing Irrelevant to stay a little overextended in the lane, and then he stacks up the 3 Qs, is able to get the quick stun into knock-up, into, I expect, the ultimate, into the quick kill here with the additional Q. It was just beautifully played by Chasy. And then how does this set up for the play in mid lane? Well, Sertuss, he actually tries to roam up towards the top side. I think we can zoom forward a little bit here, observers, because he's trying to help his teammate. He recognized that the gank threat is from Elyoya. He's moving up towards the top side of the map, and Sertuss just wants to actually go and help his team. And then Nisqy is able to find a beautiful punish here by leveraging the fact that he can land the E into the ignite, into the Q, and it's just a beautiful play by Nisqy. Just great early advantages gained that all stemmed from this heavy investment in towards the top side of the map that allowed the Mad Lions to snowball what was a beautiful early game. Now, to break down the rest of this game, I'm going to send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, Vedi. Goldberg, at some point I was looking over to you. I think it was kind of the earlier parts of those replays, and you were like this, like, oh my god. So what was it about?
Yeah, so basically in the first play that Sertuss covered the dive, he decided to TP up while Nisqy was still around in the mid lane and walked back. Now, what we didn't see on the monitor there was the fact that Nisqy had actually walked back into lane, picked up Sertuss TP on the reset, used Sertuss TP to completely cheat the tempo, and then he could use his own TP to get back so he didn't lose anything. I've never seen that sequence of play before in pro play the way it just happened.
Nice. And I'm happy that we're highlighting Chasy as well, because he's someone that we haven't talked about that much, actually. And I think maybe it's because he's always doing his job to a T without a lot of help from Elyoya. So I was definitely surprised that there was so much attention going towards the top lane from the Mad Lions in this first game.
Yeah, but at the same time, it makes so much sense when you have Elise, because Elise is such a strong early game ganking diving champion. And top lane is just the easiest targets. Like, what is Irrelevant going to do when Elise and Zoe constantly appears in this lane, right? So I think how they played this was really beautiful. Elyoya was sitting a lot around mid lane. Nisqy obviously got the solo kill, which helped unlock him. And then they just keep going top lane. There's nothing Irrelevant can do. Chasy turns into a monster, and there's just no way back.
I honestly thought it was a little bit, because we saw the same thing against Astralis, where Hylissang started roaming top instead of going into the mid lane. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, but it's a fluke. There's no way they're going to continue playing for the top side like this, because it was the first time we saw them do it to that kind of capacity. But they're following up on it, and Mad Lions ever evolving as a team this year.
And to be fair, they didn't really have to play towards the mid lane because Nisqy was doing fine on his own. In fact, he was everywhere by himself. And I feel like when that happens and you're on the side of SK and you weren't able to contend Hylissang, something that was a key to winning this game, right? You weren't able to contain Nisqy, and it's going so well top lane. I mean, where do you start, Broxa?
Yeah, like it's a very, very difficult game to play for SK. Like, we already know that the early game generally isn't their strongest. For the most part, they're really good at just sitting back, stalling, just, you know, setting up defensive vision and eventually finding openings. But at this point, because MAD Lions played so cleanly, because they got so far ahead, like, they just had no chance of coming back. It was straight up impossible.
Yeah, legit, the way the early souls were stacked as well. What was really impressive to me about Nisqy in this game was just like how much of it he did by himself with the resources he had on the champions. That was almost a perfect game in terms of how everything was set up, both from him and Chasy as well, especially in the breakdown that Vedi had as well, cancelling out Gnar jump. I think not only are they performing on the macro level, but individually, they're just so good today. Like, honestly, wow.
In this first game, they were great, but let's hope that SK can kind of find their footing so it's not just a swoop. Let's bring out the team compositions and let's take a look at where things could change out. Now, for SK, we've said many times, they don't have a lot in their toolbox when it comes to early game prowess, but here the problem was that, I guess, for MAD Lions, they were good early and they were always going to be good late anyway, right? So where does the adaptation start?
Well, the big surprise for me in drafts was that SK opted into Gragas instead of taking a Sejuani. Sejuani we often see being first picked, very, very strong pick, good answer into Elise. But Markoon, he felt like spicing it up a little, I guess, and that's the upside of a best of 5. You can take a risk, and even if it goes wrong, you can just go back to what you know works. And I think just having a more traditional jungler that not only can match Elise early game, but also do a lot in team fights would help create a lot of stability. And that combined with them, you know, locking in an early Jayce, early Varus, like, their comp is just really one-dimensional and has to snowball.
SK Blue, by the way.
Yeah, I think from the draft that makes a lot of sense. But I also think gameplay-wise as well, going into the next game, you had some successful ganks toward Carzzy, which elevated your bot side, but the rest of the map was burning too hard for that little lead to matter. So either you double down on that in the bot lane and you kind of leave top lane even more lonely because you know they're going to play on it, get more something tanky top side, as we've already seen with Science as well. Irrelevant has been very good on that. And play towards your own strengths as well, because MAD Lions right now, you need to get a leader against them somewhere, and I think the easiest for SK is still that bot lane.
It almost worked also. We had a situation in which Carzzy had 1 health in one of those skirmishes. Like, who knows what could have been. But as you say, it was all a bit on fire, unfortunately, for the side of SK Gaming. Let's see if they can bring it back in game 2 right after this.
Oh yeah, we are Vedius.
I'm what? I'm BDS?
Vedius.
We are BDS?
No, business.
Business?
Yeah.
What business? I think he said you are virgin, Carzzy. I'm virgin?
Time the spell shield as well. Once level 6 comes around, hold that thought.
That's a lot of damage, and as Irrelevant is just solo kills.
Yeah, look here. Yeah.
Look! Just stopwatch.
Nice one.
Nice.
This is MAD Lions, may want to pad the stats, find some more kills, taking out Irrelevant as Chasy now turns back to the Nexus, gets